Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of 8 January 2018. Coming to you with an interesting video about a knife yet to come. You're looking at a rather dazzling array of cutlery before the TheApostleP channel screen right now. And there's sort of a story. There's a flow that goes with all these. Let's get some of them out of the way and we'll kind of talk about what we're doing today. Well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about the process by which my fixed blade knife designs seem to be coming to life lately, and this is kind of a new process, but you guys know that there is this little group of highly skilled custom knife makers that have congregated around the New Sheffield area of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. That's the Esquire, Gladstone area, the western UP. Well, my first production fixed blade design was this, the Gunny Sidekick by Bark River. Probably my favorite all-purpose 4-inch class fixed blade knife ever. Gee, there's a shocker. I designed it and it's my favorite. Well, that's because I designed the knife I wanted, you know. Doesn't mean it's better than every other knife. It just means that's the one I wanted. So this was made by Bark River Knives, as you guys know, from CPM M4 steel. This one with a gorgeous desert ironwood burl handle. This one's mine. Well, this knife didn't start by being a 202-piece run by Bark River from a drawing. It started as an idea with no drawing at all, and then gosh, I guess it was about a year ago in the wintertime I went up to Michigan and visited, as I always do when I'm in the area, my buddy Uncle Jesse Hemphill, and he had some pieces of Damascus lying around, and he said, you know, while you're here, why don't you just pick you out a chunk of Damascus you like and we'll make a knife. And so this knife, mostly made by Uncle Jesse, certainly a design of my drawing and conception, but most of the work was done by Jesse. And this knife was sort of the first step in the process of designing and bringing to production the Gunny Sidekick. You can see there's a lot of differences. The blade's not as broad on the early prototype. The handle is actually a little longer than the knife that came to production, and not quite as ergonomic. A little wasted space on the prototype, but this knife is where the Gunny Sidekick started. And it's a pretty neat way to go. And I've got another knife that's been kicking around in my head, a knife that I want to carry, and I hope that if we make it, it's a knife that you guys will want to carry too. And the idea was a super efficient EDC fixed blade. I mean true EDC. A knife that could be carried maybe three different ways if we develop the right sheath system for it, and something that is super efficient. Got to have a minimum of a 3-inch blade and a handle that accommodates 4 fingers in a variety of grips. And let me show you kind of where I'm coming from here. So this is probably my favorite small EDC fixed blade of all time. This is the Bark River Featherweight Fox River. Just a super utility drop point blade, almost full flat ground. It's just a very high saber convex ground. Sorry, not flat. This one's an L-Max from 93 thousandths stock, and it's about a 3 1/4 inch blade, and you can see there's like a 70-30 choil at the front of the handle, which enables you to get kind of a shortish handle. You know, the front of your grip is almost at the beginning of the cutting edge, so it's pretty efficient. Let's just take some measurements real quick. Oops, big piece of lint. So here is your blade, 3 1/4 inches. Your handle, about 4 1/16. So what is that? 7 5/16 in overall length. So, you know, certainly not a knife that you could throw in a sheath and drop in your front pocket without, you know, a little binding up when you sit down and stuff. But it just disappears on the belt if you carry it vertically. This one doesn't come with a horizontal or a cross draw sheath, but it's a pretty efficient package. But here's what I've always wanted from this knife that you don't get. In a saber grip, you comfortably get all 4 fingers from that index finger choil inside the horn on the belly of the handle. When you go to an overhand pinch grip, when your index finger and thumb are in a really comfortable position, in my hand the pinky almost wants to land right on the point. So this distance from the front of the index finger choil to the horn isn't quite as long as I would like it. And then we've got, gosh, from the horn to the back of the handle is, man, that's 5/8 of an inch. So my idea was, can I design a knife that is a little more generous in this dimension without so much handle coming off the back? Now I realize that this is useful. You know, if you're in that sort of vertical draw cut grip, this surface of the knife rests nicely and comfortably in the palm, but most of my cutting is going to be done in this grip or the saber grip. So how could I do a handle that's just as efficient, you know, from the tip of the blade to the index finger, but gets more efficient in the back of the handle? And I'm going to show you the prototype that I just made with Jesse. A couple days before Christmas, I went back up to Esquire and spent a day and a half, well, I guess 1 day over 2 different days in the shop with Jesse with my drawing. And I was hoping he might have, you know, a chunk of 1/8 inch thick A2 that we could work with, but as luck would have it, he didn't. So he, you know, had to make some Damascus, doggone it. So here's the prototype of what I think is going to be my next production fixed blade knife. I'm calling this the Esquire, okay? So it's a 3-inch blade, and the prototype actually ended up a little undersized in a couple areas, but a 3-inch blade and a handle that is only 3.5 inches, not 4 1/4 like this one, so a full 3/4 of an inch shorter. It's actually even more efficient in the front of the handle ricasso choil area. Not a 70-30 choil like the featherweight Fox River, more of a 60-40. So the index finger is going to be farther down the blade than on the featherweight Fox River. But look, this dimension from the front of the choil to the horn is going to be longer than the featherweight Fox River. Look, line up the front of the choils, and it is by about 1/4 inch. It has a little more room. So when I'm in my hammer grip, I'm still well inside the horn. I go to the overhand pinch, and look at that, my pinky inside the horn. Still a comfortable enough knife in that vertical draw cut grip, but really, really beautiful in the saber grip and in the overhand pinch. So let's just take a look. We'll line them up end of the handle to end of the handle. Now granted, you got a 1/4 inch more blade here, but look at the overall length difference between those two knives. I mean, it's kind of staggering. Try to arrange them in a way that we don't have the perspective coloring our point of view, but you can see I get more hand on this handle, still have 3 inches of blade, and look how much smaller my overall package is. Now this one I definitely shaped the handle a little undersized. I'm a little thinner than I wanted to be through the top of the Coke bottle area, and even my widest point is not quite a 16th thinner than I wanted it to be, but you know, we're looking at a slimmer knife here. Although the stock is a little thicker. This is 1/8 inch stock, and I'm going to pretty much stay with that. Okay. And I sort of want your help on this, guys. I drew this knife and built it with 1/4 inch pins. These are actually aluminum Corby bolts, as you might expect, and then a 1/4 inch OD lanyard tube. So what I'm thinking, just from a proportionality point of view, I'm thinking maybe 3/16 Corby's instead of 1/4 inch, and probably no lanyard tube, just to show off the handle material a little more. Believe it or not, this is a wood I have never seen before, and I'm not sure where Jesse got this, and I think we're both a little bit puzzled as to why it's named what it's named. But it's an African wood, and it's called curly Tasmanian blackwood. It looks a lot like curly koa, I think. Look at the chatoyance in that wood. Look at that stuff move. And this is just polished, and then 1 or 2 coats of linseed oil rubbed in. I could make this a little better looking if I worked it a little more with the linseed oil. But that's sort of the knife, and I'm going to put this with the Featherweight Fox River and then the Bark River Little Creek to give you an idea. Do them like this. Do them large to small for you. So it's a larger knife than the Little Creek, to be sure, but not by a whole bunch. A little over 1 inch in overall length, longer than the Little Creek, but a full 4-finger knife. And I'm thinking, you know, let's go fairly tall with the blade, about the same as the Featherweight Fox River, but I'm going to do a full height convex grind, much like the Little Creek. The blade profile actually looks almost identical to the Little Creek, and it's a little different than I drew it. I end up with what almost looks like a little hump right here that I didn't really draw. I really drew a blade a little more similar to the Featherweight Fox River, and I'm probably going to, as this knife stretches back out to 3 inches or maybe 3 1/8, it's about 2 7/8 right now. It'll be a little sleeker, more like the Featherweight Fox River. But I think you can see what I mean as far as efficiency in a small package. So that's sort of that. And then notice how the ricasso and plunge grind and choil all meet together. So where the front of your index finger lies, it's going to be adjacent to sharpened edge, much like a Hinder or XM18, unlike the Featherweight Fox River that has, you know, ricasso between your finger and the cutting edge. This will not. In the name of size efficiency, look how short the ricasso is from the front of the handle to the plunge grind. Much shorter than the Featherweight Fox River. I think it's going to be a winner, and I'm not going to make this in CPM M4. There were enough of you guys who, although you really liked the knife, the Gunny Sidekick, you really were wishing we had done it in a stainless. So there are a couple other objectives for this Esquire that I think we're going to try to hit. You know, we've talked about it physically, dimensionally, mechanically, ergonomically, what I'm shooting for. But from a steel standpoint, I want to go with something that you can really use day in and day out for food prep and not have to worry about. So we're going to go with a modern powdered stainless, probably something relatively easy to resharpen. I'm thinking either S35VN, maybe CPM 154. And this is probably going to be a small batch production knife that it's going to look a lot like a Bark River knife, but it's probably not going to be built by Bark River. We're going to do full height convex in a really fine satin, a lot like that, but probably not going to be Bark River. If you guys have been watching closely for the last couple weeks, you probably have a good idea who I'm thinking about. And I've already talked to this maker, and we're sort of going to proceed in earnest after everybody gets home and back in the groove after the holidays, like this week. So we'll see how it progresses. And you know, we're going to shoot for a price point, you know, not something that starts in base trim at $250 or more. Probably a knife that maybe we'll offer in one or two woods and then some micartas. Maybe try to get it to, you know, just under $150 if we do a basic micarta handle, and maybe just over $150 with something snazzy for a handle. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. A really high quality, premium fit and finish, premium steel, premium handle material, EDC fixed blade. Something that's going to be really snazzy looking and going to perform really well for EDC tasks. That is the objective of the Esquire. I think I even got this sharp, even out of Damascus steel. Yeah, that's pretty good. You did okay. Can actually use this knife. Have been using it for a couple weeks, as a matter of fact. Sheath system. Let's talk about that. Again, I want your input. You know, give me some input. What you think about diameter and configuration of pins and lanyard tube. 1/4 inch like this, or 3/16. If you think these look a little big. Lanyard tube or no lanyard tube. And then sheath system. Here's what I'm thinking. I want to keep it as small as possible, and I want to use leather. I don't want this knife to be in Kydex. Frankly, guys, I don't like what Kydex does to a knife blade. They just always scratch them. There's always something in that Kydex that seems to scratch a knife blade. Leather's quieter, it's easier on the blade, and I think it looks nicer. So I want something that's going to be neck carryable, vertically carryable maybe, and definitely horizontally carryable. Because I think with the very short overall length, this will be something that will be able to be carried horizontally on the belt without poking out at one end or the other. So I think we can get away with horizontal carry. They'll really disappear nicely for you. Maybe one of the Bark River type rare earth magnet sheaths. That might work. I've thought of doing something with a cam welt so it would retain with sort of a bump or a snap on this area, but I think my cutting edge is going to be too close to the same spot, and my cutting edge will be digging into my welt. It's close. Might be able to do it. Don't know yet. So give me some input on that. How would you carry this knife? A 3-inch bladed EDC fixed blade with an overall length of, let's see, 6.5 inches. So help me out there. The sheath is completely up in the air at this point. Let me know what you think of it, whether you'd be interested, and you know what you would do with hardware and sheath. And I will keep you posted on the development of the Esquire and who's making it over the next few months. That's all for this one. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the word is sharp.